Welcome back, everyone. This is the night shift number 46 here, back with Jake and DDK. And gentlemen, we just saw EU go the distance. Will NA be the same? If nothing else, we got a fresh face in NA with Get Candy finally making their way onto the big stage after their victory in the qualifiers just a few days ago.
Personally, I'm always excited to see, new players get their chance here on the night shift. I think Deadlock's still a hotbed of talent. And as much as we've been doing this now for, a couple of years, right? Like putting on competitive Deadlock shows, we're still so long in the history of this game. And I think people forget like how much opportunity there is for new and motivated players to grind their way all the way to the top.
What does it mean to be a first mover in Deadlock? Like you were here 2 years before the game released. Like it's so crazy.
I'm sure someday these will be looking back at these as the sort of quaint, beginning days. But it's still, it's clear to me that there's this energy in the Deadlock community. I think the game is just, it almost begs to be competed in. It's such an incredible skill ceiling. I think even somebody who picks it up for the first time can tell there's just so much depth, so much to be explored in this game that we probably still haven't figured out yet.
Well, we're adding layers to the iceberg bit by bit, but to get there, if you're just tuning in, we got to tell you about how things work here on the night shift. We just finished up with EU, but of course we got NA on the way. This is how it works. Some weeks we have an NA qualifier match to decide who actually gets into our best of one. The best of one, usually the team that lost the championship match in the previous week, and we got a new champion in NA last week. Melee Creeps was able to dethrone FPS Lounge in a dramatic fashion with Lord at M subbing in, and gentlemen, FPS Lounge, now their time to get through the challenger match and try and reclaim the throne.
Yeah, exciting stuff. I think it's been really cool to see the back and forth. I think, we just saw that obviously with EU as well. That it kind of felt like for 2-3 weeks that Buff Enjoyers were looking to really kind of create a big gap between themselves and Abrahams. But now, it's they've just only now reclaimed the title from Abrahams. So good back and forth there. And I kind of feel like we're going to see that in NA here today as well.
Jake,
I have to agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as we look down on it, it's always, these sorts of days are really interesting to me because you never know what can happen in the best of one. And Get Candy, while a more unknown quantity and certainly a little bit lacking experience around the FPS Lounge, we've said that about a lot of teams. You go far enough back in the past, and it's like, who are these Melee Creeps guys that just keep getting blown away in the first round? And now one of the perennial teams. And on that good note to here, shift into rosters. Let's start with the tried and true. Get a look at FPS Lounge and see just what they're all about. And in this case, Jake, no roster changes this week.
Yeah, they've been looking, a solid performer, although they do drop the title last week to Melee Creeps. I still think this is going to be one of the most formidable teams here in the competition. Individually, I think they've all shown their pedigree, shown some real markers of success. But as a team, I think this is a squad that you want to see continue to grow, thinking around calling from players like DMB and Average and see what they can mold from this roster. But in that BO1 against an upstart squad like Get Candy, I think there's going to be a spicy one. I mean, you've got to consider FPS Lounge the favorite, but I always like the odds of a team that is, willing to take some risks, throw some big gambles in, and in a BO1, that can always just come up your way.
Dan, as you look at FPS Lounge, someone's tuning in for the first time. Who do you tell them to take a close look at just off entertainment value alone?
Ooh, yeah. So I personally, I guess it really depends on what kind of Deadlock player you are. But I've been very much enjoying watching Lomain. I think I've become a bit of a fan of his stream as well. Lomain's definitely very versatile, high-skilled player, very game smart. I think for mechanics, if that's kind of something that tickles your fancy more, if that's what you like to watch, Letha is perhaps, and I mean, since the very beginning of Deadlock, kind of made his name for mechanics. So if that's more your speed, Letha's the guy to go to.
Moving ahead, of course, to the opposition, Get Candy. Some names here may be new to some on the broadcast, but have been around the scene for a while. And in fact, Jake, aside from Snakes, who of course did the tour of duty on FPS Lounge, you have some ladder stories about some of these players from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these names are pretty familiar to folks who might be playing in Eterna 6 ranked lobbies. I feel like I see AutoFan grinding a ton of games, near the top of the leaderboard. And across this roster, I don't think any of these names are going to be strangers to folks grinding the ladder. So I always like to see it when a team like this can put up a good result, can, come in here to the night shift and get their chance now to play for some real stakes with some cash on the line. And this is just a great opportunity for them to get their feet wet in the competitive scene. It's tough. I mean, in NA, look, it's not easy. It's a 3-team format. And so to even be here, you've already achieved something. But to actually get closer to the money match, you're going to have to get through FPS Lounge. To get a slice of that prize pool, you're going to have to defeat Melee Creeps. And that's a tall order. As exciting as a new team is, I think the deck is stacked against them. So I'm always interested to see, can they beat that expectation?
Now, Dan, Jason was talking about nonstop, and yeah, it's not on the nuts and bolts, but still something that we quite literally zoomed in at one point. Your thoughts on the Get Candy logo and the fact that we finally got a dog on broadcast?
Yeah, but is it the right type of dog, ZP? I like big dogs. I like big dogs. I'm not a fan, but I mean, the fact that we're getting sort of the candy, in there, I suppose, towards the back. I don't know. I feel like I'm conflicted here. What's the messaging? Small dogs.
This is an iconic
and sugar high
logo. It doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't have to. It's just good vibes. It's extremely good vibes. And in this era of AI slop, I'm here for something with real heart to it, right? Like a little dog with a photoshopped hat and some candy. I'm here for it.
We're also here. We're thrown into the unstable rift, whereas nothing but pug is what we're actually getting. But production, as we listen to the ambiance here, do we have a Mo 1v1? Because I didn't get someone by the NA players, but again, they've looked into its eyes.
I like how it's just being encircled by someone's hand. Like it's like I could end you. It's just it's just feels kind of sinister almost. Am I the only person that's kind of feeling the? Well, I feel like I'm taking away the wrong things from the logo there.
How'd you get
I'm not on the same wavelength here.
This cute little dog with the propeller hat and candy. It's like the least sinister image of all time.
Into the way. We got Mo 1v1 underway, and a parry just comes out.
You could pretend we can pretend to call like there's any expectation of what could happen. This Mo 1v1 is always pure chaos. I will say I'm glad to see it, outside on this rooftop since we made the change. It's much more, I think, a scenic part of the map here. It was down to the wire.
It was forced on us. Mid boss kicked us out at the beginning of the game. Like
True.
Mid boss just gets in there early.
True. The mid boss is really getting into the 1v1 in a crazy way.
Oh, it's average, taking the L there. So Get Candy, they get their choice of first or second pick. Take a look at EU. It seems like second pick may be a little bit more favored. We'll see if Get Candy decides to go in that favor. But no,
I feel like you can never take a guess at what the NA metagame is going to be from watching EU. Like if one thing's constant is that the two regions have totally different takes on the game, and that feels like it's true every single week, which I think is another one of those subtle signs that like the game is so far from figured out. Even though we start to feel like we see these patterns and players certainly have their preferred strategies, there's always going to be a huge difference in approach just because of different mindset and the complexity of the game.
So Dan, we see Billy being taken out here. Oftentimes it's been Doorman Pocket taken down first. So one of the two is going to get through, and it's going to be Doorman up and about. Now the question is, with the resurgence of heroes like Shiv and Billy off the board, which makes frontliners more at premium, does Get Candy still say, you know what, we're going to go the Doorman?
Yeah, and I mean, Mirage as well is someone that has become like first pick potential. I don't know how that's felt in NA compared to EU. But there's a lot of like first pick potential. I feel like Holiday is another one, which I think just for the playmaking potential and with all the buffs that she received, she's also like a good pick here and has taken precedent over Paradox. We've seen a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if FPS Lounge are going to snatch up. Okay, there's the Mirage, potentially a Holiday. I would be imagining, but Shiv, she's pretty awesome even after the change.
So Jake, I gotta ask, just so far into the draft, between first and second pick, you're on one of these two teams. Who are you liking more between the first and second pick and the options it gives you between the Mirage Holiday versus the Doorman?
I mean, Doorman is so hard to bet against because this character just brings so much value. It's a pretty strong laner. It has like a pretty sick poking mid game with those call bells. And then the utility of the door to let you play into things like mid boss fights that normally you'd never be able to contest, to let you get these comeback moments, I think is massive. It is, though, I think a bit of a team skill check. It's not, for me, I'm less worried about like the Doorman's ability to pilot the hero and more worried about, can your whole team leverage these portal doors to do these crazy team plays? Like that's where I would have looked at a team like Get Candy and say, are you really gonna, get the most value out of that? So for them to pick the Doorman is confidence, I think, in the team, and the fact that they are going to be maybe looking to make some of those more creative plays. Calico and Furnace has been quite a popular little twosome because I think the lane is pretty sick with these two together. Very, very aggressive, very threatening, and definitely a lineup that wants to be on the gas at all times. But FPS Lounge not going to be cowed away from doing the same, going to get the Shiv for themselves.
Now, Dan, we see the Get Candy setup here as we go in the mid-stage bans, and their priority is clear, and none of the priority is landing on frontliners, where FPS Lounge, they bounce out a little bit with the Shiv at the end. Your kind of gut take at this, because it is interesting, not even something we saw in EU.
Yeah, I do. It is very interesting because I do wonder where would have Calico been prioritized if, let's say, if you went for the Shiv and try to protect that like premium frontline option. Because with Billy out of the picture, Victor not really being in the meta at the moment, you're not really left with too much, for your frontline. So I'm kind of curious which way Candy going to take this, because they could just give up on picking frontline after whatever FPS Lounge pick here and just try to get something less quality in the final picks. Maybe that's one of the directions you'd see them go now.
Now, Jake, okay, they answered my question. I was about to ask you, what about the Viscous? Because Viscous was super high pro in EU, shifted way later in NA, but we do see FPS Lounge finally get it at pick 4, no less.
I think they're going to feel good about getting this after the mid-stage ban phase. The max cube purge against Infernus is pretty great. I do think the Doorman maybe mitigates it a little bit. Sometimes, it's harder for Viscous to get those saves when somebody's caught in the Doorman ult, or, the fight is just kind of broken up by those portals. So Good Candy go a little bit, I think, pretty standard here with Lady Geist on the carry role. Something to just give you that late game gun damage, kind of set up a little bit of a turret and force some kind of a response out. But with the Apollo coming in, I mean, they've really set up for aggression here. Still maybe lacking some level of control in this team comp, right? Where I see for FPS Lounge, I mean, a lot of team fight threat where Mirage tornadoing you up, Holiday with the lasso, Viscous with the roll. There's a lot of ways to kind of lock down players. And for Get Candy, I kind of want to see maybe something in that 6th pick that can set up those kills and actually, lock people down.
Now, Dan, both sides of the draft nearly complete. What's really striking out to you as FPS Lounge preps for their final pick?
Yeah, again, the lack of frontline, I'm sort of wondering what the options might look like. Bebop is a nice pickup there for FPS Lounge. And I'm wondering, are you thinking Abrams? Are you thinking Mo? I feel like you're having to solve a variety of problems here. I'm not really sure which way they would go. People aren't really picking Mo, although he did get some buffs actually, and I think he's being undervalued at the moment, and there's definitely some value to be had here. But Yamato, so they're going really crazy with the Spirit Burst. The chase down is going to be crazy, and they've forfeited actually having too much of a front line. So I actually like this though, ZP, because you're kind of doubling down into a playstyle where your win conditions are pretty strict, maybe you're not as rounded, but you have a lot of power if you get the tempo off the beginning of the game.
Jake, quick gut feels here. Drafts complete on both sides. Which draft is speaking out to you a little bit more overall?
I mean, FPS Lounge feels like they kind of got everything they wanted here. It's a very comfortable draft for them. They've got a very solid core. To Dan's point, it's a very well-rounded team comp. It's hard to bet against it. So I'd give them, the odds to win. But to your point, Dan, I like that Get Candy are being a little bit wild and crazy with this draft. And yes, there's a lot of explosiveness. I think if you fall behind in this draft, you're going to have serious problems. I don't know if you're going to be making big comeback plays that FPS Lounge might have more available to them. But hey, as a big underdog team to come in here, for a lot of players, their first chance here to compete for a cash prize in front of the audience, you know what? I like it. Go for some lane domination. Try to just blow the game out of the water early and snowball. Rely on players' individual skill in the lanes. I think a little bit of gambling is in order for an underdog squad like Get Candy. So I don't hate that they've gone this direction.
Dan, look at recent picks that we've seen within the game. The biggest wild card to me for Get Candy, just because I think at times it's had a pretty low performance, and also I think has been struggling win rate wise when it has been picked, is kind of what is the role of Yamato. Yamato gets picked a little bit more in NA on the whole, is a little bit more of a comfort pick, but the actual results I think for Yamato have been pretty mixed as of late, and also in this case pretty big expectations when your only other frontline sort of in this case is Geist. You're kind of relying on Yamato to have a bigger game than normal as I look at it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the difficulty with Yamato is certainly that it's all kind of burst damage, and if after the initial burst, if you're unable to really make that result in the kills that you're looking for, it kind of feels like it can fall flat. And I think players are so good these days at being able to counterplay the Yamato. But that's kind of why, for me, the draft kind of makes sense in a way, because they've invested so heavily in these like chasey, like high tempo heroes with lots of burst damage to follow it up with. So Yamato can go in. I mean, Apollo has like great mobility, Calico has great mobility, Infernus has a great mobility, and Doorman has the capacity to set stuff up too. So I can kind of see the vision. I just wonder where Geist is in the picture. Is Geist relying on the rest of the roster to go super aggressive and then just farm, or how is this going to play into the rest?
I do think Geist is going to be out of the picture, just free farming a side lane while the rest of the team actually takes fights. But I think that's, it's an important thing to have in the comp, right? No matter how explosive your early game is, at some point you're going to need to take towers and take objectives. You need somebody who just has like raw farm, gun damage to bring down objectives and bring down the mid boss when you do create that opening with kills from the other characters. So I think it's a very crucial pick to have somebody on a more sensible role there with the Geist. But yeah, I don't expect her to get involved. If she is getting involved early, it's probably a bad sign. It probably suggests that the game is in a potentially pretty scary state, because lack of like pick off heroes like Holiday and Bebop, as you see on FPS Lounge, I think makes comebacks kind of seem scary. There's not really a middle ground for especially characters like Yamato. It's like you're in and there's no backing out of those fights, right? Like once you commit, it's pretty tough to get away. Even Apollo, I think, is a little bit more all in with the commitments than he once was. A little bit less adept at getting away, but still with a lot of tools to pile on the aggression and chase down those kills.
Jake, as we sit here and stall for time because NA's taking a bit of time to get into lobby, let's go to nuts and bolts, things that you have self-admitted in chat recently. You've said, and later nowadays, you're a viscous Bebop spammer. Can you stay unbiased as FPS Lounge is repping both of your current mains?
Yeah, I've been trying to keep my hero pool, like kind of fix it to sort of a role. As I think about the future of the game, I kind of want to be. I like playing this early game tempo style. I've also played a lot of carry, and I think I actually get like probably better MMR playing carry and just conservative farming patterns. It's like it turns out you can do quite well just farming conservatively and making the right meta game decisions about when to show up to the team fight and just not overextending your lead as a carry. You can go quite far, I think, with that, but. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun trying to play, the faster, more aggressive style of characters and, a little bit more mechanical, I think, on especially characters like Bebop that are just a ton of fun to land those hooks. So I'll do my best. I'll do my best to be neutral. I do think Forget Candy, you could say the same, like, although they're lacking some of the most popular frontliners, I have a sense that characters like Apollo and Calico, they are a frontline, as long as they're strong, like as long as their damage is genuinely threatening and the team is actually pressing forward, they work great as a front line. They're getting in first, they're starting these fights, they're going with the engagement. Where you run into trouble is where you kind of need to defend and throw somebody down there as a bit of a wall between you and the enemy. That is where I'm like, okay, this is scary. But if you can play from ahead, if you can do decent in the lanes, snowball into some picks, get some rotations on the lanes, that's where I think Yamato and Calico are kind of best in class, maybe alongside Drifter, who's of course banned this game, but heroes who can really quickly roam to other lanes and make an impact, turn those into kills.
Now, Dan, would you believe me, based on prior team experience in NA, this is direct from production, if I told you that of the two teams, it's not the new team that's delaying us, it's FPS Lounge, where someone may be in the bathroom again, we don't know, but FPS Lounge is not yet fully in lobby.
Privilege, man, entitlement. I don't know what to say. It's just what do we do? What are we powerless? I don't know.
I feel like we should start doing a draft penalty. We might need to do it actually, because I mean it has become a problem, I think, in North America, and the fact that EU teams managed to get in the lobby, I think, is kind of a testament to that there's not really a good excuse for this. And hey, maybe a draft penalty, like, hey, you miss a ban or at least you lose first, second pick completely. The other team gets it straight off the rip, or something like missing a ban. I think it would be pretty severe, but not so bad that you couldn't recover from it. So I think we might have to look at draft penalties. Hopefully it doesn't happen anymore. Hopefully just the specter of the threat is enough to get into this.
Well, we will shake our canes menacingly at FPS Lounge, and hopefully you'll fix the issue. But either way, the game is finally about to be underway. Jake, DDK, take it away, starting with Jake.
All right, thank you so much, ZP. And yeah, Dan, as we get into this, a fresh face in North America, Get Candy defeated Work in Progress, who looked like a pretty promising squad, and they drop them 2-0. So that's a big win for Get Candy, and gone with a heck of a gamble here in the draft for this challenger match. A lot of aggression on the cards.
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? Because I think that the composition that they have is super fun. I think it's a testament to how a variety of approaches can absolutely work in Deadlock. However, I feel like because it's tuned to the more aggressive win condition, where they need to get in the opponent's faces, they've got to maximize the power of this burst damage that they have, the chase down that they have. They've got to create space for guys. They have to get aggressive with the strategy, and that's actually the hardest thing to do. And especially against really high skill players, if you're the underdog team in terms of skill, let's say, that's actually, I think, the hardest way to win. Because to be aggressive, you've got to be smart. You've got to basically almost limit testing and playing right up to the line consistently. And against really, really elite players, that's one of the hardest things you can do, even though it is one of the most effective if you can do it.
I agree with you, but I guess I would caveat that story with just this idea that I think it is more about your individual skill to succeed in something like the aggressive player. It's like, how good are you individually at your characters? Can you all just land the damage, land the skills? And honestly, that's where a team like Get Candy, it's like, we call them the underdog and we think FPS Lounge is a much stronger team, but as individuals, they're all very high-ranked players. I don't think that the mechanical skill gap is going to be significant in a game like this. I think where you run into trouble is the team coordination. It's the experience in late-game Deadlock, where that's where I'm more worried about your ability to keep up. So I kind of like that they're going to bet on their individuals to say, hey, we can make the plays. We can come up with the goods in these, potentially difficult moments where the mechanics make the difference. Maybe I think you'd rather that than making this a game of, hey, who's got better late game decision making, better communication and coordination? Because for me, that's kind of FPS Lounge every day of the week with their experience and the performance that they've been having as of late.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it. I think I actually totally agree. I think that's such a good way to highlight sort of what they're up against and where the reps are. The reps are definitely in the team over the individual. That's going to be where the biggest disparity is. So definitely a really good call out. And for them to be able to do that, I think this early laning phase is definitely going to be the most important place for them to kind of build that individual advantage. And in terms of the lanes here, Jake, is it kind of breaking down as you expected, at least in the combos?
Yeah, I mean, the laning meta is kind of wild these days. It's like, I think it's kind of hard to predict where exactly people are going to land, especially for the Get Candy comp, where for me, there's no one who's super obviously going to be in one lane or another. Usually we have seen a lot of Bebop in the mid lane, so the fact that Lomain is bringing his talents to the side lane, I mean, the Venator pairing, though, is quite a popular one with the potential combo of hook into the Venator trap can be pretty devastating if you can set it up. Apollo, though, in the laning phase, normally I think is a pretty aggressive hero, a lot of spirit nuking in that lane, but up against Holiday, pretty hard to actually just be able to connect these skills consistently with her. So I think she's going to be all right playing into this lane, playing comfortably Mirage as well. So it's a more of a defensive look here for FPS Lounge, but so far so good. I mean, pretty much lanes I would say are just about dead even, although First Blood is going to go to AVG here. Picks up the kill onto Girardi, and Yamato, this is the quintessential character that really wants to be ahead in Deadlock, maybe more than anyone else in the cast.
Well, so far, we're 3.5 minutes in. Looking pretty good right now, Jay. Because I want to see a good showing from the from the challengers, I suppose, the newcomers, to get warm into night shift, and maybe we'll start seeing them more often. A little bit sad that we have Snakes on the server and he's not able to play Billy, but that's just me.
Opening ban, of course, used against Billy in this game. But Apollo, I think, is another character that, again, offers a lot of individuals and the opportunity to get super aggressive, but the health, it feels like in this lane, has kind of started to turn against him. Mirage is a reason this character goes so early in the pick prio. The lane is really good. I think people have just really started to figure out the builds on Mirage to be effective at all stages in the game. Sustaining really well in the lane with a lot of these regen tools, building into a pretty serious amount of damage around things like Headhunter. And then in the late game, it's like the Scourge and the Echo Shard, it feel like that's actually given Mirage a better late game than he ever had, even playing with the heavy M1 debuff style. So he's still able to proc a lot of big damage with the Jin's Mark, but able to just be so dang hard to kill with all those defensive tools people are building in the late game these days.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard comp to deal with, and one of the first kills going to DMB here against Spooky, so least mobile character, and also finding Calico as well, so... Oh my god, actually, in fact, this is bad, Dan. This is really bad.
Tower
Very
and
fast.
double kill. DMB is having a crazy game off that insane injection of souls. And that also means, I mean, this is the dream for Bebop, right? To dominate your lane and now kind of be free to roam. Very curious to see what the itemization looks like for Lo Mein. It seems that he's kind of setting up for a gun build, which has been, I think, more popular and high level these days. But this next buy is always a really interesting one for me. It looks like he's going to go for the Headhunter Rush. So, yeah, woe is to anybody who dares lane against the Bebop in the next few minutes.
Yeah, it's very painful now because, again, you kind of want the tempo if you're going to be on the Get Candy team. And now they got to figure out how to deal with these potential ganks and this disruption into the early game. A 5-minute Guardian is very, very quick. And we can already see there's a almost 5k advantage for FPS Lounge on the Souls this early. Definitely doesn't bode well. But like you say, Jake, you know, these players, they have good awareness and they have great mechanical skills. So we'll see if they're able to sort of, again, lose well in the right ways and not kind of fall to how the game state has now changed. Not get caught off guard by some of the potential for the ganks. And never want to see that as well. Venator aggressively taking away your side of the map's farm.
Ooh, those procs are hurting. Apollo in real trouble, trying to get some damage back in. Some of the heals off the flawless advance make a bit of difference here, but Leffa with the vitality buff, so happy to take all these trades on Mirage. I mean, he is going to regen through all of this. Holiday, ooh, great lasso connects here, and Rhino doesn't even have ult. He's caught dead to rights here. Lo Mein also going to assist into this kill. The parry comes in additionally. Leffa just guarantees that one, and this is painful for Calico right now. This is a moment you'd wish you'd be winning your lane, able to, you know, clear some of those tunnel boxes, but he doesn't even have ult online yet. I mean, he cannot really get aggressive without those tools.
Really, really hard spot. You know, it's just such a classic way that FPS Lounge off of the initial Guardian takedown could leverage that advantage. Let's just roll into mid, apply the pressure there, outnumber them. And it's one of those things where for Get Candy, you got to kind of recognize that game state's changing and kind of preempt what do you think the opponents are going to be doing in the macro. And if you don't, you're going to get caught out like they did in the picks. And so right now, FPS Lounge, they keep just snowballing this advantage. And it's going to get really, really dangerous here, Jake, because DMB is also, no matter what's happening, is going to be getting an extremely accelerated trajectory on the farm.
Yeah, accelerated is just the half of it. I mean, in Venator, we know how threatening this character can be in the late game. It feels like the only time things go wrong for Venator is when he has a brutal early game and he's kind of playing comeback from the start. But someone playing comeback from the start, it's kind of Girardi on this Yamato. Worst case scenario for the hero, really needs to find her way to participate in some kills and quickly, or she could kind of find her way into irrelevancy this game, especially with Shiv on the board, the execute. Such a problem for Yamato, who loves to be able to play down on low HP, you know, dodge a key skill with Shadow Transformation and turn that into a kill. But Shiv, the execute, it's so threatening. Even if you get Shadow Transform off, like, you could just be instantly dead on the back of it.
Another Guardian going down. Looking to get the punish on the doorman. And I mean, trying to juke, but eventually...
Wait, he's still alive? Okay. Geo, yeah, goes down alongside Girardi. This is turning into a bloodbath here. I mean, we're almost at a 10k soul gap. FPS Lounge charging towards the money match.
Yeah, the scary thing on top of the fact that it's such a well-rounded composition for FPS Lounge is that it has so much utility on it as well. Like, you know, Viscous is so amazing with the saves and just like so versatile, but has insane poke and ability to disrupt these fights. You know, just every character, there's so much to say when it comes to the utility that they provide in both these kind of 2v2s as well as the team engagements as well. So it's just like, when we get to this stage, Jake, it just feels like, how do you kill them? How do you kill any of these players on FPS Lounge?
Average takes a ton of damage, has to back out here with the goo ball. DMB is going to back off as well, recognizing that Viscous can't fight with him. But that's 3 players coming to this lane, and all you accomplish is bullying out the Viscous and getting a rollout. Doesn't feel the most significant, not able to turn that into a kill or any kind of tower damage. So DMB is still going to be able to farm very comfortably. They are able to split the pressure, though, and grab an objective here on the other side of the map, taking down that right side Guardian. So that's something to open a tower, but... So we're at the 10-minute mark. I mean, we're nearly in like comeback threshold for the very first unstable rift. Definitely not where you want to find yourself. Maybe that comebacker and the comeback rift, these can kind of bring you away back into the game. But FPS Lounge, they stay aggressive. Feels like with Holiday lasso up, action is going to come sooner rather than later.
Ooh, the catch though onto DMB. It might end up in a kill here, but just turning around with the Iradomini, it's gonna be powerful. But there we go. We'll get the focus fire, and surely, but not quite enough damage there from the Apollo ultimate.
No way.
Trying to chase him down with the lunges, but able to duck away around the corner, breaks line of sight. That feels so bad, Jake. It feels so bad.
That is a tragedy for Snakes. I mean, that looks so dead to rights. The fact that DMB, the most farm player, such a highly prized kill, slips away. Really painful. Durati doesn't even bother popping the Shadow Transform. I mean, good call. He was dead anyway. And Trophy Collector is the buy for low main. I mean, he's looking to snowball out of control this game.
Yeah, such a great buy considering how quickly he was able to get into the action. And the urn is going to get carried over to the deposit spot. And I don't know that can be contested. Like you say, it kind of feels like you want to go all in on the unstable rift when that comes up. Or maybe there's some trading opportunities depending on how FPS Lounge decide to, position players there. Do they position like enough players to contest, or are they going to spread players out? That's kind of the macro decision. The next big macro decision that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely, it's a key objective. But I love these trophy collectors bought by FPS Lounge on at least low main and Xeno, because when you're this ahead this early, it's sort of inevitable that sometimes a comeback fight is going to turn against you. But those trophy collector stacks, they don't go away, right? So you're able to farm those up early, even turning some of these trades that would feel better for the comeback into something a little bit more even. Shiv gets cubed, but was already trying to use his execute to escape, so he's still potentially not out of the woods yet, although a couple misspells from Rhino are going to be the death of the Calico, and Shiv, bailed out by the team in this spot, is going to be able to comfortably reset. Another couple deaths, another couple stacks picked up, and average adds on to the trophy collector spam. And I mean, they're basically building all damage plus trophy collectors. This is not recommended for the folks casually playing, but when you're this far ahead in a competitive game, this is a really great exploration of how to exploit that advantage for FPS Lounge and maximize what you're able to get out of these early kills.
I think on top of that too, if you think about how squishy the roster is overall for Get Candy, that extra damage focus with that advantage is going to go even further. So I love the call out there on that. I think it makes a lot of sense for this specific situation. And there we go. There's the first unstable rift. We'll see exactly how both teams look to position around this.
I almost doubt FPS Lounge are really going to fight this, because the resists are going to be so significant. They might just look for kills on the outskirts, though, knowing that Geekcandy are going to be interested in this objective. And Geist gets absolutely demolished. Hook into shotgun, blasted away. Spooky in real trouble here, as Urn on the other side of the map, and Bebop more than happy to pick up a couple kills, start farming these trophy stacks. Yes, Geekcandy grabbed the rift, but how much does that really accomplish when you're feeding a Walker, and they're even going to give the Walker solo souls as much as they can to DMB to just further accelerate this Venator's game?
So devious. And I mean, you would love to see Get Candy try to trade out the Walker on the right side with the Rift, comeback Rift minions, but doesn't look like that's all too likely. There is a big fight, and has been a big fight over there, and it seems like the tide is playing against Get Candy here, despite getting the Rift minions. They're getting sent back. Yeah,
the Rift minions, they're all right, but they're not going to break an advantage like this, especially with just a few AoE skills, right? For the first Rift, those minions are great if there's still a Guardian to take in that lane, but they're never really going to do too much on the Walker, especially when the enemy team is as far ahead as FPS Lounge are in this game. Low main just keeps building damage items now. I mean, he's already got the Trophy Collector and the Fortitude. Those are going to keep him on the map and farmed, even though he can basically just perma-hunt kills now. So I really expect to see low main and Xeno driving a ton of the action alongside average. And the cores on FPS Lounge, there's no brush for them, right? They can really comfortably farm this game up, especially with how much these lower eco roles are able to contribute in this game.
Yeah, the Holiday isolated there, but no support to help finish that one off.
Zip knock. That's brutal. Zerati should surely be dead here. He's going to pop the Shadow Transforms or try and fight it out, but I mean, a fully stacked Venator, you're not long for this world.
So unfortunate. Xeno was pretty low for a while, but just follow-up's not quite there, and it's really sad. I do wonder how different the game may be had DMB died, ages ago when he was getting chased down. If you remember back to that, because that would have slowed his farm down. You would have got a bunch more kills, or rather, sorry, a bunch more souls off of the kill off of that. Like some of these, early, instances of these fights can be kind of impactful. But either way, it's still a 13k lead. So actually, controlling the lead, it hasn't gone up too much. It's kind of stuck around here, and The problem, though, is, like you said, Jake, that the roam here from low main is pretty unrelenting. You don't get a chance to breathe.
Counter kill attempted here. Maybe Xeno to be found. Second rope chase, and it's actually turns into something. I mean, these comeback kills are worth a lot more than FPS Lounge are able to get off of the kills they're able to find. Yam has gone very heavy damage with the build, recognizing that she just doesn't have the luxury to tank up, but that is going to feed another kill the way of Poppers. And hold on, DMB goes down. Okay. So Spooky, I mean, getting involved, I said that's probably only going to happen if the game is in a rough state, but I think it's a good decision here. Not out of the woods yet, though. Goes for the swap on Bebop, who's just trying to slip away now, and this is turning into quite a comeback fight here for Get Candy.
Yeah, it seems like FPS Lounge kind of starting in disadvantage and just kind of throwing just more bad fights at it, and there might be opportunity here. The soul discrepancy now is tightened up a little bit. The 10k difference now, so about 4k recovered by the Get Candy team, and it's now holding on to the urn. And at the same time, we get this pressure looking for the Walker takedown. Oh, the pull into the Walker, and that's a very dead Infernus. Very difficult situation now for Get Candy as the defense looks good.
Yeah, Shiv holding down the fort on the Walker, and it's a good rotate in from Xeno. Punishes Get Candy for getting so overconfident to think that they could challenge a Walker in FPS Lounge's game. Not to be today, and Shiv is just gonna do what he can to try and pick up some kills on the Exbit, and they just keep finding these little trades. Like the trophy collectors on AVG, Low Main, and Xeno have to really be stacking up now and starting to kind of make this game feel out of reach for Get Candy. I mean, we're pretty early, but it's really dire right now, Dan. I can't overstate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see. It's hard to see how you come back when you have these a bunch of.
You still there, Dan? You cut off for me.
Dan cut out for me too. I just had to make sure I wasn't muted. So,
yeah, Dan, we might have lost Dan for a little bit. We'll see if we can get him back into it. But yeah, I mean, the TC stack's building up. Dan, you're back?
I'm back, hello.
Okay, he's good.
All right,
good.
I'm tagged back out. I was ready to tag in, but you know what? We recovered Dan, so we're back to a regularly scheduled broadcast.
We were just talking about some of the trophy collector stacks that may continue to pile on here for FPS Lounges. Get Candy aren't too scared of these fights. I mean, they feel probably a little bit desperate here. You need to find something, and pretty quick in this game.
Yeah, and the tough thing is, especially when Yamato and Apollo and Calico are low on farm, is they're all burst damage characters, and so you need to, once you initiate, that's got to basically get you to the kill, and they just may not have the damage. The Doorman's really just trying to get out of their Geos. Might be able to survive here. Got some assistance as well. Looking to see if there's any extra value to throw into the fight. We've got to be very careful there. They'll go and retreat back to the Walker safely, but still though. Advantage held onto by FPS Lounge. And I've got to say, Jake, the FPS Lounge are not expanding it quite as much as I had thought. But once again, Girardi in a bit of trouble.
Oh, Yamato really in serious trouble here. Has not been able to build the tankiness, and here we see the impact of it. AVG picks up another kill, farms a few stacks for the squad. Spooky, though, has really been keeping pace well on this Geist. A little bit of a glimmer of hope here for Get Candy, as his and Autofan's games on the Infernus have actually not been too bad, even while the rest of their team is suffering pretty handily. So as they get involved in these trades, you got to be a little bit cautious. Xeno grabs the lasso. Geist, a lot of tankiness, and with swap available, this isn't necessarily a free kill for FPS Lounge as the Rift spawns in on the fight.
In the meantime, across the other map as well, the Walker's getting pushed as well. So very scary situation for Get Candy. You don't want to lose both here. So this Rift, I think, is huge priority. There's the swap onto the Mirage. We'll see if Leper is going to be phased by this at all. There's the life drain as well, looking to finish off the kill, but also have to stay in the circle here to make sure that they can get the Rift. It's 99% for both sides, and they will secure it. But they may well lose the Walker on the right side of the map at the same time.
Yeah, it is painful to lose that Walker, which probably does equalize this trade, but definitely some overconfidence from FPS Lounge trying to fight into that. I think it was a maxed out resist comeback into the Geist, who's the most farm player really on Get Candy. Feeds a couple of kills back their way. A Walker trade will be something I think you'll happily take, given how brutal this game state has been for the last few minutes. Rhino trying not to add on to the feed here as Snake's caught in real trouble as the execute comes in to finish it, and you want to just keep tempoing this out. Full out aggression. The follow-up execute from Poppers gets him close enough to connect that dash and drop Rhino.
And that pick threat from the lasso and the hooks, very, very scary indeed. And right now, FPS Lounge have the majority of their players in that mid lane, so he's just in a great position to potentially open up with a hook. So you've got to be very careful if you get Candy. You've lost 2 players. There's that mid-boss attempt now. Already going to be screaming. And I don't know that there's really anything that can be done about this. Obviously, 2 players are down still for Get Candy. So the challenge is simply not there.
Does get a door in the pit from the Walker. Like, this is a really big deal. It makes this more playable than it might otherwise be. A hook missed. Yamato does make her way onto the crystal. Can go for some parries. Needs to find some Reju blasts. Need to mitigate some of the advantage the FPS Lounge are bringing to this fight. They find 2 for 1, so a good trade for Get Candy. Girardi doing his job, but they're so low. The stat check here, very real. And especially with this Walker position able to be played by Get Candy, they're going to be happy enough with how that fight goes. I mean, for FPS Lounge to only get 1 kill and 1 Rejuve leaving the pit, honestly, that doesn't feel too bad considering how far behind you are in this game.
Yeah, that was pretty epic. Considering that they were going to lose the mid boss for sure, being able to burn away those rejuves, and now that obviously also the rejuve is 3 minutes on expiration instead of 4, it's not quite as valuable as it used to be. Still, of course, very good, but just only having 1 to play with, it feels very different than having 3 to play with. With that said, you still got the initiation power in the hook and the lasso to create really favorable scenarios for Get Candy, or rather for FPS Lounge. So Get Candy have to be very cautious, but they are running the urn right now, and they might be able to just dunk that one straight in.
Comeback dunk here. Feels pretty good. Even with the Rejuve leveled against you, the vast majority of the souls do go the way of Rhino there. But you can just tell that they know the strength of FPS Lounge is so much higher. Calico has to ult. Pretty early one. Definitely a chance here for some exit kills. Xeno really wants to find some of them. Girardi is going to go down. Still doesn't have that Shadow Transform from using it for the mid-boss pit. DMB also wasting no time here in the picture-in-picture, shoving down that mid-walker, completing the tower sweep here. Objectives now fully complete for FPS Lounge. Just kills and a potential shrine on the cards for them if they could turn this team fight into a real killing spree for the rest of the squad. A lot of low players here on the side of Get Candy. Furnace tries to bring this one back, tries to get 1 kill, but you're still sitting on a Rejuve. A little defensive hook from low main gets DMB out of trouble. The Rejuve can be consumed then by average to keep this fight going.
I love that he got the uppercut there for the extra safety. But the fight's still raging on. Lots of players got, I think, burned very low by the early Venator engagement. And this is looking quite desperate for Get Candy. Got to fall back a little bit. Trying to see if they can catch maybe 1 player on the exit. But these players very healthy. There's a cube, so a lot of utility there to keep people safe. And in the meantime, FPS Lounge have control of the entire map. Everything is
like
blue.
Silencer or Spell Slinger. Okay, he goes defensive with Counterspell. Kind of surprised. Okay, and weighted shots added on. So, I mean, the debuff resist is going to be pretty insane here. Enduring speed picked up. So going for a well-rounded build on the Bebop. Understandable considering, you know, he doesn't necessarily need to do the gun carry damage, but this Bebop will fry people, right? If you let him just sit there and shoot, low main is on fire and bringing very significant damage, especially on isolated targets with that Hunter's Aura.
Okay, so 29k difference right now for FPS Lounge. Next mid boss, as it comes up, is probably going to be one of the most decisive moments, given that this advantage is so strong now that you could easily just bait the mid boss take and then create a fight around it. So if FPS Lounge want to just do that, that is an option. There's a lot of options for them. They could also, I mean, it's probably better for them to wait for a pick opportunity because they've reliably been able to farm those from the hooks, from the lassos. So many good tools to do that. And in the meantime, DMB just gets stronger and stronger. So they're sitting pretty right now, Jake. It's very hard for Get Candy to slow what feels like an inevitable defeat.
Definitely. It's a huge threat. Lasso out in the mid. Does Xeno grab a target? He did, and it's the Doorman of all heroes. Doorman, oh, wait, hold on. Somehow the damage follow-up isn't there, and Geo slips back through the door, although, the bleed-out Shiv just barely gets the job done. That was almost a pretty painful mistake for FPS Lounge, letting him get away from that, so lucky to just get that kill and get out. You see the build has really come online here for average. Tempoing in now to a very serious amount of spirit damage off the back of this splatter, and you don't want to mess with Viscous with this kind of build. The Transcendent cooldown means that this cube feels like it's always going to be available, maybe 2 or 3 times in a team fight.
I see Calico.
So much map control right now. Every lane is pushed. It's just dangerous to be on the map almost in any place except your base. If you are at Get Candy at this point, you could get picked.
Yeah, with escalating here on Mirage, it's like you can't even come out to the side lanes. You're kind of corralled into a very small fraction of the map here, and that's just not going to be good enough to keep up in the farm game, even with some of these comeback souls. I mean, the buff spawning in a few seconds, FPS Lounge going to back off to secure those, but it's felt oppressive right now for Get Candy, man. Without a single walker left on the map, it's just so hard to get out and secure that farm. Feels like once that third walker goes down, you really lose a lot of fighting power, and the strength of the macro game, I think, is really felt here, where FPS Lounge not just coming out of the lane so strong, but ensuring now that they've closed out the map almost entirely for Get Candy. I mean, this is the level of top-tier Deadlock.
And there's the earn pickup for Leffa. There's like really no stopping Leffa. There is some lane priority now going onto that left lane, but I mean, really, what on earth can you do? Right now, you're just in a position where you'll just get picked if you step out too deep, and that's exactly what FPS Lounge are looking for.
I mean, Geo's caught again.
There it is.
Lasso and hook on this door, man. He does, put Shiv in the Baroness, but it doesn't seem to be significant whatsoever. A little farm injection here for Leffa, who runs the earn in. It's going to likely buy Scourge here, I guess. Okay, the Echo Shard is maybe the safer pick here. It doesn't even need the damage from Scourge. It's just going to live forever with 4 tornadoes. Such a problem, especially because they're really just starting to prep for the next mid boss. I mean, that's, I think, the game plan here for FPS Lounge. Secure the next mid boss, win the game off the back of it. Lomain getting caught in potentially a scary fight, but support is coming in, and a nice little TP in from Leffa. Such a threat from this tornado. You just cannot commit on Mirage, especially with mobility buff behind.
And it seems like a slow constriction, a suffocation right now of Get Candy as the map is starting to press deeper and deeper into their territory. And every single one of the front doors right now for the Get Candy base is being hammered by either the troopers or the heroes of FPS Lounge. It's just so oppressive. It really is so oppressive.
Yeah, finding these base guards would be a big find for FPS Lounge. It's really next up for them. I mean, I think people underestimate how valuable it is to have those fast zip lines. Not only is it an important objective to like help you fight around that part of the map when the base guardians do pretty serious damage, but the fast zips just kind of change the game for all the other objectives on the map. Another kill comes in. This time it's Snakes found out, and dribs and drabs here and there. But I mean, the constant here is that FPS Lounge just keep popping up in the feed, and they just aren't giving anything back the other way.
And there's that mid boss, which is, again, it's just an easy take here for FPS Lounge. I mean, maybe Geo can try some more door shenanigans, but I don't think that anything is going their way this time.
There is a crazy wave of minions going to crash in the FPS Lounge base. I mean, this is a little bit of a risky mid boss. It should go their way. They're so strong right now, but if it somehow doesn't, they're going to be like losing shrines for it. No one's coming back to defend an enormous mini wave you see on the mini map here. And Yam coming in. Can she find some parries on this Reju? Right now, our first melee does get blocked. Trades coming in 2-1. Once again, Get Candy mitigating most of the value, but FPS Lounge, they're so strong, instantly finding these kills. Leffa also coming into the pit to assist. Looks like a cleanup here for FPS Lounge, still healthy across the board. Lomain lasering into this mid-boss area, and Get Candy, they prevent Rejuves leaving the base, but Leffa is going to make it back in time to defend those base guards.
There we go. FPS Lounge don't have too much resistance now. They can just press onto the base, get those shrines finally. I feel like they've been playing, quite cautiously in this best of one. You can't blame them. But now it's time. It's time to get these shrines down and drop the first stage patron, and there's really nothing to stop it.
I mean, cautious is relative. We're not even 30 minutes into the game, and I'm pretty sure this game is over. FPS Lounge, they may back off and buy after dropping the patron here. That's the smart play. They really should. But maybe they'll just feel confident and go for the gamble because they just keep finding these kills. Snakes throws his life in for really not much impact there. I mean, no one on FPS Lounge really taking much damage. It's the value of the Viscous and the Bebop. They're just so quick at snapping off these individuals who are coming in trying to make plays. DMB going to even pick up an additional base guard on his way out, just taking every little bit of farm on the map. And FPS Lounge going to back off maybe one last slate of buys, but with Lomain and Xeno playing the way they are, I can't imagine they'll be gone for long. I think this is a buy and just re-push. If they can find one more hook, one more lasso, that'd be more than enough to get them convinced, I think, to go for the win on this.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be not too long now for FPS Lounge to once again regroup and try to finish the business. It's definitely a great experience for Get Candy, their first their debut here on Night Shift. Everybody's got to go through this at one point or another, Jake.
This is the initiation ritual. Snakes, he's been here before, but reminder of what to expect at this level of play. Hold on, the Infernus counter initiate coming in, trying to get some damage down. No rejuves available. Average put in the hotel, so cannot deploy the saves. FPS Lounge getting low on a couple players, so there's just a shred of a chance for Infernus to really get active in this fight. Spooky also still alive here on the Geist, so the carries still up and fighting for Get Candy, but the number advantage has gone firmly against them. Spooky has to back out of the fight, and now Infernus pretty much left here on his lonesome. Yamato's still alive, and actually, hold on, does manage to get one more counter kill up top, but the weight of the kills just eventually overwhelms Get Candy. But 2 players alive, they may have a chance to defend for the base push if Jarate can live a little bit longer, but okay, as I say that, he goes down pretty dang quick.
Here we go. It's the final push here for FPS Lounge, surely. Only one player left to stand in their way. Spooky. He's going to get absolutely destroyed.
I mean, yeah, that was his only chance, right? To go for a big gamble kind of a kill out of the base and catch somebody off, but there's just too many backups on backups here for FPS Lounge. With a 50k soul lead, decisive win here in the challenger match. And for Get Candy, I mean, first chance for some of these players to get their feet wet and get some of the nerves out on the night shift. Hopefully we'll see them again and with a better showing, because FPS Lounge, it was them all day here. I mean, a completely devastating win over Get Candy here in the first match in North America.
All right, it's going to be FPS Lounge treating Get Candy to a baptism here in their first run on Night Shift. But hey, beginnings have to start somewhere. And look, I'm going to go on a note of positivity. I'll start with you, Jake. Before we get into nuts and bolts of FPS Lounge win, or one rather, what did you see that was good coming out from Get Candy? Where you're like, you know what, you can build on that. That was the start.
I did like it. I mean, it felt like they were able to consistently deny really dominant mid-boss reju fights, which when you pick the Doorman, I think that's kind of expected, Yamato as well. But even with those picks, like, it takes a lot of skill to be able to just play the parry game well enough, to time things perfectly enough to be able to deny those reju. So we could have seen a much more explosive game if FPS Lounge were able to get out of some of those early mid-boss fights with a more decisive hand on the objectives. But it was well executed by Get Candy to prevent that and kind of pull us into a longer game. But I think the lack of these pickoff heroes really hurt them. Like, Lomane and Zeno ran the table this series. They were just getting kill after kill, and I think Get Candy just started to crumble at the seams from that pressure.
Dan, same question over to you. Obviously, first showing for Get Candy. Highlight reel is going to be a lot of FPS Lounge, but what did you see where you looked at and said, hey, there's a little bit of hope for Get Candy?
I think honestly, it was the hope is something I think that Jake really mentioned at the beginning of the game. We were talking about this matchup in the laning phase where the individual skill, I think, is clearly there. It was very clear that FPS Lounge were able to outplay Get Candy on the macro, and that Get Candy, despite that, we're able to still, I feel like, keep the game somewhat within certain amounts of control, but they just kind of kept sort of falling behind on the macro and not really necessarily knowing what are the best options to try to mitigate this or plays that we can make to kind of be disruptive. And really, I think a lot of achieving that is understanding precisely how the other team makes their macro decisions. And so I felt like there's too much reactivity there, and I feel like with the individual skill they have, as they get more experience, they'll learn how these elite teams are playing the macro at this level, and they'll be able to slowly adapt, understand how to respond a bit better. And I think that they'll get more opportunities to actually have closer games here, because I do agree that the skill is there.
Now, Jake, when delving a little bit deeper into what FPS Lounge did well, obviously a key point that anyone looks at for any game is the draft and how things went down. But, as you break down this game, how much of this result was off the FPS Lounge draft and how much in your mind was off the execution? Or is it, of course, all of the above? Like, where do you apportion where FPS Lounge got ahead?
I mean, I do think they did just get outskilled this game. I mean, FPS Lounge, this is a draft where they could have won off team play, but it felt like they didn't even necessarily need it. Like, it was really a laning domination and individual mechanical domination, with Lomane and DMB eviscerating their lane that badly. I'm impressed that Spooky was able to actually get pretty farmed this game and actually be a relevant force, showing up into some team fights early. I like that he made that read, that kind of a faster tempo was necessary considering how dire the situation was. So, there's like moments where I'm like, okay, Get Candy is making good calls in a really tough situation. That's good for them, but you can't find yourself in that kind of a devastating deficit with FPS Lounge going triple trophy collector very early. It's like, you're basically the game's lost at that point, right? Especially with the draft you went for. Like, you didn't have a way back into it. I don't hate that conceptually, because maybe this game was a really brutal proposition from the jump. As soon as we saw these rosters, we knew, okay, FPS Lounge are the heavy favorite here. They know it too. They play with that incredible confidence through the whole map. But, you know, I'd love to see more from Get Candy. I don't want to take this as like, this is their potential, this is their showing. It really, for me, this is just FPS Lounge looking as strong as ever and really putting their foot on the gas, exploiting any weakness they can. They did not take this match lightly whatsoever.
Dan, you're Melee Creeps, you're watching this match and getting a new look at how FPS Lounge is likely about to head into your game. What are you looking at from this game and saying, you know, in our draft, we're going to take that away. We actually don't want to see FPS Lounge playing that against us?
I think really being mindful of both the Holiday and the Bebop. I think Holiday chiefly. I think Mirage obviously is just generally a high level threat, but I think you know, when you see the amount of the map that you can just run and the amount of opportunities you can create with Holiday and Bebop, it gives you so much control, and I think it gave DMB so much space and breathing room because the rest of his team was able to just constantly dictate the pace and force reactions. And so that's, I think, where, you know, team is able to get ahead, is if they are taking initiative so heavily like that. And Holiday and Bebop are like key pieces of how you do that.
Yeah, and, you know, Jake, as we take a look at it, kind of directing same question over to you. Melee Creeps, of course, are going to be coming in sans Do, because Do could not locate an extra keyboard in 4 hours. Unfortunately, just in a tech desert. You know, you're looking at this from the Melee Creeps point of view. You know, how are you adjusting your draft plans?
You know, I don't know. I don't think you want to overreact to a match like this that was always going to be pretty lopsided. I do think, though, it's a little bit of a scary way for Melee Creeps. You know, they got to come in and play loose here and just say, hey, look, we got a couple subs. We're kind of figuring things out with the roster. With Do out, I mean, Do has been a monster performer for Melee Creeps. Feels like ever since he joined, he just fit right into the squad. I think it's pretty great for them. They got League as a sub. I think that's just about the best they could do for someone who fits Do's role and still is a really top tier player. But anytime, you know, you have to make those kind of substitutions, it doesn't feel great. So I feel like Melee Creeps are looking vulnerable this week, but also I think what brought this team, what propelled them to success in the first place was, you know, playing loose and taking gambles and being willing to try new things. That's where they first found success, and they first realized, hey, maybe we could be a really strong team. So if there's any team that can kind of pull it out here with a maybe not the best roster situation for the moment, it'd be Melee Creeps. So I wouldn't be too eager to bet against them.
All right, so we got word from production. The MVP is good to go. Dan, why is the MVP Xeno? Run us through it.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be Xeno or Lone Main. I think just, again, running the show, getting so many picks. The lassos, you could just hear it. Like, sometimes we would hear it. We'd be on a different POV, and you just hear, like, in the distance, and you just know someone's going to die in a couple of seconds. And again, this is so debilitating. Again, these are already pretty squishy heroes with a lot of mobility, and so this is one of the absolute best ways to lock them down. And we saw Xeno able to get key picks over and over and over again against these very slippery heroes. And so being able to shut down one of the greatest strengths of the roster, which was mobility, that's Xeno had the tools for that, and that's exactly what we saw.
You know, Jake, on top of Xeno's Holiday performance here, just thinking about the team comp it was done in, we also saw this in EU where teams are more willing to go with double pick this week across both regions. And it was also the case in this game where we had the Holiday Bebop. You know, why do you think we're suddenly seeing this bigger trend towards, just run double pick?
I mean, I think people have realized, right, that, you know, these are pick heroes, and they offer that, of course, as a key part of their kit, but they're also kind of nukers and carries in their own right. You know, Bebop can scale pretty fiercely, as we were able to see even in this game. And the hook and the lasso, these just become one element of the kit, right? Deadlock is a really open game with every character having a lot that they can kind of bring to the table. And as people, you know, as long as you can play on like a relatively lower eco and still have impact, I think whether it's a pick hero or somebody like a Calico and Drifter, the lines are a lot more blurred than I think, you know, people would really give it credit for. Like maybe the hard carry is a little bit defined, but it really feels like outside of that, man, like everything is up for grabs right now in Deadlock. You could play very different strategies and still find success.
All right, well, FPS Lounge, they get through the newcomers and they get their shot at a rematch against Melee Creeps. It'll be a slightly different Melee Creeps team, but all the intensity action is going to be there. Stay tuned. When we come back, the NA Money Match is underway.